Have you ever walked into a room and just instantly felt the tension or, met someone who just like effortlessly drew you in without even saying a word? What if you could actually see those invisible signals and know exactly how to respond? We're talking about an essential skill here, a really profound ability, actually. It's what separates good communicators from the truly extraordinary ones. And it's not about being the loudest or, the smartest person in the room. It's something much more subtle, but way more impactful.
Exactly. Imagine just for a second a world where you could understand what people truly mean,
Yeah.
not just the words they're saying. A world where you could navigate social situations with this, like deep sense of ease and confidence, building real connections almost instinctively. Well, this deep dive, it's all about unlocking that ability. We're pulling back the curtain on the art of social intelligence. And we're drawing some really incredible insights from the audiobook Social Intelligence, the art of reading and responding to people.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. Our mission today for you listening is to take you on a journey through this hidden language of human connection. We want to help you turn everyday interactions, the small stuff, into powerful opportunities for building real trust, exerting positive influence, and getting a truly profound understanding of the people around you. It'll discover like practical tools to really master those crucial first impressions, decode the silent but incredibly eloquent language of body movement, and learn to truly deeply listen in a way that actually transforms your relationships. Hashtag the invisible power of social intelligence. So let's start right at the core. We hear about IQ, right? Logical smarts, and EQ for managing our own feelings. Where does social intelligence fit into all that, and why is it just so vital?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And it's really important to define it clearly. Social intelligence is your ability to, well, understand, navigate, and respond effectively to the social world. The world around you. Forget just IQ, that raw cognitive power, or EQ, which is more about managing your personal feelings. Social intelligence, that's the S intelligence. It's all about your relationship with others. It's about really reading people, sensing their hidden emotions, interpreting those unspoken intentions. And then this is the crucial part, responding in ways that actively build trust and genuine connection.
That distinction really resonates. Yeah. It sounds less about my internal world and much more about that dynamic interaction with everyone else. And when you think about it historically, this skill must have been absolutely foundational for human progress.
Oh, absolutely. Human history itself is shaped by social intelligence. I mean, think about the great leaders who rallied nations, or the entrepreneurs who built empires from nothing, or even just the teachers who inspired generations. They didn't rely only on knowledge, right? Their real power was in their ability to connect, to understand the pulse of a crowd, to inspire loyalty, a shared vision in like every aspect of life, from a job interview to a first date, negotiating a deal, comforting a friend. Our success really hinges on how well we understand and engage with others. And here's the truly empowering part. Social intelligence isn't some innate talent reserved for a lucky few. It is absolutely a skill. And that means anyone, including you listening right now, can develop it, refine it, and yeah, master it with practice and intention.
That's incredibly encouraging, especially, for our listeners who are always looking to grow. It really puts the power directly in your hands. But why in our modern world, our kind of hyper-connected world, why is this particular skill becoming more crucial than ever? What happens if we don't cultivate it?
It's more viable now than maybe ever before. It's this paradox, isn't it? Where like hyper connected digitally, but so many people feel more divided, more distracted. There's this deep craving for real connection, but also this pervasive feeling of being misunderstood. In this environment, social intelligence is, well, it's essential. Think about the real world consequences. You might have a brilliant employee, technically amazing, right? But they get overlooked for promotion because they struggle with team collaboration, the people side of things. Or maybe a passionate entrepreneur who just can't inspire the trust needed to sell their vision. or even a loving partner who unintentionally creates distance because they keep missing crucial emotional cues. In every single one of those scenarios, the difference maker isn't raw intelligence, it's the ability to connect. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember every single word you say. They always remember how you made them feel. That feeling, that profound sense of being seen, heard, and understood, that's the lasting impact. That's social intelligence.
That's such a powerful distinction. It's about feeling. And it sounds like this skill isn't just one big thing, right? It seems like it's made up of different parts. Could you break down the main sides of social intelligence for us?
Certainly. Yeah, it's helpful to think of it as having two essential interconnected components: social awareness and social facility, like two sides of a really powerful coin. So social awareness,
Yeah.
that's your ability to read the room, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's that nuanced perception that picks up on the subtle emotional cues, understands body language, notices unspoken signals. This is really where empathy lives. The capacity to not just observe, but to genuinely try and see the world through someone else's eyes.
Right. And what's fascinating there is, like you said, it's not just passive observation, it's active. It's really trying to step into their shoes, understand their world from their perspective. That feels like a huge leap beyond just noticing surface stuff. It's like profound curiosity.
Exactly. And then once you have that awareness, that insight, you move to the other side. Social facility. This is your ability to respond effectively, to act on the insights you gain from your awareness. It's about how you communicate, how you influence, collaborate, handle conflict. So, for instance, you notice a colleague is upset. Social facility is knowing how to effectively comfort them. Or you sense skepticism about your idea. Facility is having the skill to win them over. When you combine both, that deep insight of social awareness with the skillful action of social facility, that's when you unlock the full transformative power. You stop just seeing people, you genuinely start connecting with them on a much deeper, more impactful level.
It really does sound like a superpower you can actually develop and use every single day. Can you give us a couple of clear examples? Like, how does this actually play out in real life, turning small moments into something bigger?
Absolutely. Okay, picture walking into a tense meeting. Instead of just jumping into your presentation, you pause. You acknowledge the elephant in the room, maybe say something like, I'm picking up on some tension here. Would anyone like to share what's on their mind before we dive in?
Hmm.
Instantly, the mood can shift. People feel valued, the tension eases, and what could have been a difficult meeting transforms into something collaborative.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or maybe you're at dinner with a friend. Instead of interrupting with your own stories or jumping in with unsolicited advice, you just lean in. You listen profoundly, really hear them, and respond thoughtfully. Your friend feels safe, respected, understood, and that strengthens a relationship, maybe for a lifetime. These seem like small acts, right?
Hmm.
But their cumulative effect, it's life-changing, consistent social intelligence compounds like interest. It opens doors, builds bridges, creates opportunities that, frankly, raw brain power alone could never achieve.
That compounding effect is really exciting. And the best news, like you said, is this isn't something you're born with. You actually can learn it. So what's the secret? How do we develop it?
Yeah, the good news is you really don't need some kind of innate charisma. It's not a fixed personality trait. It's a skill. And like any skill, cycling, cooking, whatever, it can be practiced and mastered. Every single conversation, every meeting, every brief interaction is actually an invaluable chance to improve. The key really boils down to awareness plus intention. Simple but powerful. Once you know what to look for, training yourself to notice those subtle social cues, to listen actively, to respond thoughtfully, you'll find people just start opening up more. They trust you more. They naturally follow your lead.
Okay, so for anyone listening right now thinking, all right, I'm in, but where do I even begin?
Well, this deep dive is designed to be your guide. We're going to explore mastering first impressions, decoding body language, digging into empathy, building rapport, navigating conflict, and even applying these principles in our digital world. Each section offers specific insights, actionable tools, things you can actually do. Think of social intelligence as this invisible power. And honestly, you already possess elements of it. You sense a friend's warmth, right? Or a colleague's stress. You comfort a loved one sometimes without words. With consistent practice, you can sharpen this gift until it's second nature. So from this moment on, I invite you, our listener, to view every interaction as a growth opportunity. Ask yourself, what are they really feeling? What do they genuinely need right now? How can I respond in a way that brings us closer? Just adopting that mindful mindset alone will profoundly set you apart.
Okay, so we've got a handle on what social intelligence is and why it's so crucial. Now, let's zoom in on those critical initial moments. That old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. It sounds like a cliche, sure, but is it really that powerful?
Oh, it is absolutely true. And it's a cliche for a very good reason. Within mere seconds, literally seconds of meeting someone, before you've even shared your brilliant ideas or your life story, people form a pretty robust opinion about your trustworthiness, your confidence, your perceived intelligence. So the critical question isn't if these first few seconds will happen. They will. The question is how. Are you going to let them just unfold by accident, or are you going to master them with conscious intention?
That's a stark choice, yeah. Can you maybe paint a clearer picture? Like, just how much can those first few moments dictate what happens next?
Let's imagine two totally contrasting scenarios. Okay, scenario one. You walk into a job interview, you're distracted, maybe fiddling with your phone, shoulders are kind of slumped, your greeting is mumbled, half-hearted, eyes darting around. Without even realizing it, you've just broadcast uncertainty, disinterest, maybe even incompetence. The interview hasn't technically begun, but honestly, the outcome is already tilted against you.
Oof. Yeah, it's a tough start.
Now, imagine the flip side. Scenario two. You enter with a calm, composed smile, upright posture. Your eyes meet the interviewers with warmth and genuine respect. You greet them clearly, confidently, maybe using their name. Before a single question is asked, you've communicated assurance, presence, reliability. The interview might still be challenging, sure, but you've given yourself a huge head start. This is the profound science of first impressions. Humans are literally wired for these snap judgments. Our ancient ancestors needed to assess threat or alliance instantly for survival. Our primal brains still size people up in moments, often completely unconsciously.
So it's really deep-seated in us. What are the key things then? You mentioned 4 pillars that people are unconsciously evaluating in those initial seconds.
Right. When people first meet you, their unconscious minds are rapidly checking 4 primary pillars. First, appearance. Now, this isn't about expensive clothes. It's about evident effort, neatness, signals of approachability and care. It's like the packaging of your presence. Second, body language. Long before words, your posture, gestures, movements speak volumes. Straight back, open stance. That projects confidence. Crossed arms, fidgeting. That whispers insecurity. Third, tone of voice. You know the phrase, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. A warm, clear, steady tone draws people in, conveys calm, competence. A rushed, monotone, or uncertain voice, that pushes them away. And finally, eye contact. This is a huge trust signal. Too little feels untrustworthy, disengaged. Too much can feel aggressive. Balanced, natural eye contact, that creates connection, shows you're present, sincere. Mastering these 4 pillars really sets the stage for success.
That's incredibly useful. And for those of us, who might not naturally feel super confident walking into a new situation, you're saying there's a sort of silent language of confidence we can still project, even if we're nervous inside?
Absolutely, and this is a key secret, really. You don't need to feel confident to look confident. Small, intentional physical adjustments can dramatically shift perception. First, stand tall. Shoulders gently back. This projects assurance, yes, but it also signals readiness to your own brain. Second, cultivate a genuine smile. Relaxed, authentic, it softens your presence, puts others at ease instantly. Third, consciously slow down. Nervous people tend to rush their speech. their movements. Confident people take their time. Deliberately pacing yourself projects composure. By consistently practicing these outward shifts, you create an impression of self-possession. And what's remarkable is over time, these outward signals actually start to reinforce your inner confidence. It's a feedback loop.
That's a fantastic tip, the feedback loop idea. But you also mentioned authenticity earlier. How do we balance projecting confidence with, staying true to ourselves? We don't want to feel like we're putting on a mask.
That's a crucial point, a really vital caution. The goal is not to create some kind of deceptive mask. People have sharp instincts. If you fake interest or warmth, they will sense the mismatch. It feels off. Social intelligence here is about aligning your external presence with your internal authenticity. So instead of pretending, focus on your intention. Ask yourself, what do I genuinely want this person to feel? What positive energy do I truly want to bring to this interaction? When your actions authentically match that positive intention, the desired impression flows much more naturally.
Okay, so a great first impression gets our foot in the door, but how do we make sure it leads to something lasting? Not just a fleeting moment.
All right, a great first impression opens the door, absolutely. But it's unwavering consistency that keeps it open. We've all met someone who seemed warm and engaged initially, right? Only to have them become distracted or dismissive moments later. That initial spark just fizzles out. Your ultimate goal shouldn't just be to impress, but to genuinely connect. And here's a beautifully simple yet powerful formula for that lasting connection. Curiosity plus respect. Curiosity means showing genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions, really listening, valuing their perspective. Respect means honoring their time, their presence, their individuality, remembering their name, giving your full attention, acknowledging their input. People, in the long run, they might forget your exact words, but they will never, ever forget the feeling of being respected, valued, and genuinely seen by you.
That's a formula everyone can put into practice. Curiosity plus respect. Love that. What's one practical exercise listeners could try, like today, to start mastering this?
Okay, here's a simple but really effective exercise. The very next time you meet someone new, consciously practice this four-step process. First, pause for just one full second before you greet them. It grounds you. Second, make gentle, natural eye contact and offer a soft, genuine smile. Communicates warmth. Third, if you know their name, speak it clearly with a warm greeting. Using someone's name is powerful. Fourth, ask one sincere, open-ended question about them, and then commit to listening to the answer without distraction. This simple sequence transforms ordinary, forgettable interactions into memorable ones. Remember, first impressions aren't about perfection, they're about presence. Every time you enter a room, every handshake, every conversation, you're sending a clear, unspoken message. I see you, I respect you, I am fully here with you. Commit to approaching them with that intention and authenticity.
Okay, we've talked about those crucial first few seconds, the verbal greeting, the vibe. But what about the unspoken language that just keeps going throughout an interaction? People might say one thing, but their bodies often seem to tell a completely different story. It really is like a secret code, isn't it?
It absolutely is a secret code. And learning to decipher it grants you this incredibly deep insight into people's true thoughts and feelings, even when they might be consciously trying to hide them. The core premise here is profound. People might lie with their words, sure, but their bodies. More often than not, they tell the unvarnished truth. Every subtly raised eyebrow, every tiny shift in posture, every fleeting flicker of a smile, or maybe the lack of one carries hidden messages. The question is, are you listening to them? Are you paying attention?
Can you give us a really vivid example of this power of the unspoken, just to bring it home?
Yeah, think back to a time someone insisted, oh, I'm fine, but their shoulders were slumped, their eyes were downcast, maybe they let out a deep sigh. Their body told a much truer story, didn't it? Or conversely, maybe you walked into a room and instantly knew someone was just brimming with excitement before they said a single word, just by the spring in their step, their animated energy. This is that invisible, potent layer of communication that's always surrounding us. Research suggests a staggering figure. Something like up to 70% of our communication is actually nonverbal. Words are often just the tip of the iceberg. The deeper truth lies in the tone, the posture, the gestures, the facial expressions. Reading this unspoken language, it gives you a massive advantage.
Wow, 70%. That's huge. Okay, so let's break down some of the basics of this silent language. What are the key things we should be looking for?
Okay, let's dive into the fundamentals. First up, posture. Standing upright usually signals confidence, engagement. Slouching often suggests disinterest, fatigue, maybe insecurity. Next, arms and hands, crossed arms. Often means defensiveness, discomfort, creating a kind of barrier. Open hands, relaxed gestures tend to indicate openness, trust. Then, legs and feet. This is an interesting one. Where someone's feet are pointing can often reveal where their attention really is, angled towards the door. Might signal they want to leave, even if they're talking to you. Oh, never thought about the feet. Yeah. And of course, facial expressions. A genuine smile, a Duchenne smile, engages the eyes and the mouth. But even more profound are micro-expressions. These are tiny, fleeting flashes of true emotion that can betray feelings before they're consciously masked. And finally, eye contact. We touch on this. Balanced contact shows interest, confidence. Too little suggests insecurity or avoidance. Too much can feel aggressive. But remember, and this is key, signals rarely exist in isolation. True mastery comes from reading clusters of cues that align, not just interpreting a single gesture out of context.
Micro expressions. That sounds like a real superpower in itself. What exactly are they, and how can we even begin to spot them? They sound so
They
fast.
are fast. Microexpressions are these tiny, involuntary facial expressions lasting less than a second. They reveal emotions a person might be trying to conceal: anger, fear, sadness, joy. The trick: look for incongruence. That's the key. If someone smiles broadly and says they're happy, but you see this subtle flicker of sadness cross their eyes for just an instant, that's your cue. Something else is going on. How to practice. Start by watching videos of people interacting, maybe with the sound off. Try to guess their underlying emotion based purely on their face and body.
Mm.
Then turn the sound on and check your perception. It takes dedicated practice for sure, but it will absolutely transform how you view conversations. You start seeing this whole other layer of truth.
Fascinating. Okay, and there's also something called the mirror effect, right? How does that fit into body language?
Ah, yes, the mirror effect. It's a really fascinating aspect of social connection. It's the unconscious tendency for people, when they're really in sync and building rapport, to subtly start mirroring each other's posture, gestures, even breathing patterns. This mirroring is a powerful, often subconscious sign of genuine rapport, connection, and trust. Now, you can use this consciously, but you have to be careful. By subtly and naturally mirroring someone's posture or demeanor, you can help create harmony. But avoid mimicking too closely or obviously. That just feels forced and insincere, even creepy. Aim for natural alignment, not exact copying.
Right, subtlety is key there. So it's not just about reading others, it's also crucial to be aware of what our own bodies are communicating. How can we use our body language intentionally to send the right signals?
You've absolutely hit on a critical point. Reading others is only half the story. Sending the right signals with your own body is the other, equally important, half. So, to do this effectively, first, adopt an open stance. Keep your arms uncrossed, shoulders relaxed. This communicates approachability, not defensiveness. You're open. Second, lean slightly forward when someone is speaking to you. This subtle lean conveys attentiveness and genuine engagement. Third, use natural gestures with your hands when you speak. Dynamic, relaxed movements make your communication feel more vibrant and trustworthy. Avoid stiffness, and critically, match your facial expression to your words. If you're talking enthusiastically about something exciting, but your face looks bored or blank, people will believe your face, not your words. The mismatch kills credibility. Your body is perpetually communicating. Make sure it's telling the story you actually want others to hear.
This all sounds almost universal, but I imagine there are cultural nuances we really need to be aware of. Body language isn't the same everywhere, right?
That's extremely important to remember. Yes, body language is significantly influenced by cultural context. What's perfectly acceptable or even expected in one culture can be confusing or even offensive in another. For example, direct eye contact. In many Western cultures, it signals respect and honesty. But in some Asian or Middle Eastern cultures, prolonged direct eye contact, especially with elders or superiors, can be seen as disrespectful or aggressive. Social intelligence demands awareness of these differences. When you're in a different cultural setting, observe the local norms carefully. And when in doubt, lean on the universal signals of warmth, openness, and genuine respect. Things like a gentle smile and open posture, these translate pretty effectively across most cultural boundaries.
That's great advice. Observe and lean on warmth. Okay, to help our listeners start practicing this, what's a good exercise they can try?
Here's a simple, powerful activity you can do anywhere. The next time you're in a public space, a coffee shop, a park, maybe waiting in line, just silently observe the people around you. Watch their posture, their gestures, their facial expressions. As you observe, consciously ask yourself, what might they be feeling right now? Where does their attention seem to be focused? Are they generally open or closed off in their body language? With consistent practice, you'll start noticing subtle patterns you completely overlooked before. This observation skill enriches your own conversations and dramatically enhances your ability to respond thoughtfully. Remember, words carry information, sure, but body language carries emotion. Learning to read and respond to this silent language unlocks much deeper human connection. Pay attention to the silence between the words. Often that's where the most significant truths quietly reside.
Right. So we're constantly surrounded by this silent language, these invisible signals. And building on that, you mentioned earlier that people are kind of broadcasting emotions like invisible radio waves. How do we actually tune into those hidden frequencies if to become more emotionally aware?
That's a perfect metaphor, isn't it? Every single person broadcasts emotions like these invisible radio waves. Some are loud and clear, others are subtle whispers just beneath the surface of their words. True social intelligence lies in learning how to tune in to these hidden frequencies, knowing not just what people say, but how they genuinely feel underneath it all. At its core, emotional awareness is simply the ability to recognize emotions, both within yourself and in others, like having a finely tuned antenna. When you're emotionally aware, you don't just react blindly based on the surface. You can respond with empathy, with wisdom. Think about walking into a room and instantly feeling the atmosphere. Maybe it's tense or joyful or somber, even before a word is spoken. That's your emotional awareness at work. It's like your internal social radar guiding you.
So it's definitely a two-way street then. Understanding our own emotions and understanding others. How do those two sides of emotional awareness work together?
You're absolutely right. It's a powerful two-sided coin. You need both. First, there's internal emotional awareness. This is that knowing your own feelings. Are you anxious right now? Excited? Frustrated? A lot of us just push through without really labeling our emotions, but naming them, even just silently to yourself, actually helps you regain a sense of control. Saying, okay, I feel nervous right now, is very different from just drowning in that feeling of nervousness. It creates choice in how you respond. Second, there's external emotional awareness. This is about reading the emotions in others. It's seeing beyond the polite, I'm fine, to maybe the disappointment or frustration underneath, perceiving the deeper emotional truth. Mastering both gives you this incredible double advantage. Profound self-understanding and deep understanding of others. This dual mastery forms the indispensable foundation of genuine empathy.
That's a great distinction. And you mentioned something really interesting earlier that emotions aren't problems, they're messengers. Can you elaborate on that reframing? Because I think most of us see strong emotions as problems.
This reframing is incredibly liberating, I find. Emotions aren't problems to be suppressed or fixed. They're vital messengers trying to tell us something important. They need to be understood. So when you feel anger, it's often a signal that maybe something feels unfair or a boundary has been crossed. Sadness signals I've lost something important to me. Fear communicates I sense danger or uncertainty. Joy signals this aligns with my values or needs. When you start treating emotions as valuable signals, you gain immense clarity. Instead of judging others or yourself as too emotional, you shift to this curious empathetic stance. Okay, what is this emotion telling me? What core need might be unmet right now? This completely transforms how you interact with your own feelings and with others.
That's really powerful. Okay. And you also said that simply labeling emotions, putting them into words, can reduce their intensity. How does that work? And how accurate do we need to be?
The art of emotional labeling is honestly one of the most practical and powerful tools in the social intelligence toolkit. Simply putting feelings into words, either for yourself or reflecting them back to someone else, significantly reduces their intensity. It's like letting steam out of a kettle. If someone is clearly upset and you gently say something like, "Wow, it seems like you're really frustrated right now," that simple acknowledgement often brings immediate relief. It communicates, "I see you, I hear you." And here's the crucial insight. You don't have to be perfectly accurate every single time. Even if your guess is slightly off, maybe they say, "Well, actually, I'm more disappointed than frustrated." The very act of trying to understand shows genuine care and empathy. That effort alone invites them to clarify and open up further, which leads to deeper connection.
That's a huge game changer, realizing the act of trying matters more than getting it perfectly right. Okay, what about our own emotional triggers? How does awareness help us control our reactions when someone pushes our buttons?
Right. Awareness also extends crucially to noticing your own emotional triggers. These are specific situations or comments that reliably provoke a strong, often negative reaction in you. Like maybe criticism always makes you defensive, or perhaps silence makes you feel anxious. Identifying these personal triggers gives you a tremendous advantage. Why? Because it allows you to create a deliberate pause between the trigger and your reaction, instead of just reacting impulsively on autopilot. That pause, that's your power. Instead of reflexively snapping back, you can take a breath. Instead of shutting down, you can choose to ask a clarifying question. This ability to manage your own emotions not only brings calm and control to yourself, but it profoundly influences those around you too. Emotional control is often contagious. Your stability can actually help stabilize others. It's often mirrored.
So it's really not just about what's said, but so much about how it's said, the tone, the pace. How do we listen beyond just the literal words to truly pick up on those emotional cues?
To really tune into those emotional frequencies, you have to listen beyond the literal words. Pay close attention to the music behind the words. The tone, the pace, the emphasis, the size, the hesitations. A sharp, clipped, "it's fine" carries a vastly different emotional weight than a soft, resigned, "it's fine." Always be vigilant for mismatches. Mismatches between the verbal message and the nonverbal signals. If their words say yes, but their body language, their tone, everything else is screaming no, trust the nonverbal signal. That's usually closer to the emotional truth. Socially intelligent people catch these inconsistencies and often address them gently, maybe saying something like, "You said yes, but I sense some hesitation." This prevents misunderstanding down the line.
Okay, so all this emotional awareness, understanding ourselves, understanding others, it naturally leads to empathy. Can you define empathy in action for us? How does it look?
Indeed. Emotional awareness is the direct pathway, the prerequisite for genuine empathy, which is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, empathy doesn't necessarily mean feeling exactly what they feel or even agreeing with them, but it does mean making a sincere effort to imagine their perspective, to understand their experience from their point of view, and then responding with that understanding and compassion. For example, maybe you notice a colleague who is unusually quiet and distant after a difficult meeting. Empathy in action might be gently approaching them later and saying something like, "Hey, I noticed you seemed quieter than usual in there. Is everything okay? How are you feeling?" Hmm. That small act of noticing, of showing concern based on your emotional awareness, can open doors to deeper trust and create invaluable psychological safety.
That's really powerful. What's a practical exercise our listeners can try starting today to build up their emotional awareness muscle?
Okay, here's a simple but really effective exercise. I call it the check-in pause. Try doing this 3 times a day, maybe morning, afternoon, and evening. Just pause for literally 30 seconds and ask yourself 2 quick questions. First, what am I feeling right now? Try to label it as precisely as you can. Am I tired, irritated, content, curious? Second, what might the people immediately around me be feeling right now? Just take a moment to consider the general energy or specific interactions you've observed. Are they stressed, focused, relaxed? By practicing this regularly, even for short bursts, you train your brain to start noticing emotions automatically, both yours and others. It becomes more second nature. Emotional awareness really is like adjusting the volume on a radio, allowing you to hear the subtle notes, the hidden frequencies that others might miss entirely. Control comes from self-recognition. Connection comes from recognizing others. That's the foundation. So keep asking yourself, what emotional frequency are they broadcasting right now? Tuning into that will guide your response with so much more wisdom and connection. Hashtag tags the art of listening deeply.
That leads us perfectly into our next topic, which feels really connected, the art of listening deeply. I think many of us think we're pretty good listeners, right? But often, maybe we're just waiting politely for our turn to speak or thinking about our reply. Why is true deep listening so much more powerful than speaking, even for someone who wants to be, influential or persuasive?
Well, it's one of communication's great paradoxes, isn't it? Most people believe they're good listeners, yeah? But often, like you said, we're politely nodding while our minds are racing ahead, crafting our next brilliant response, recalling our own similar story, judging what they're saying. True, deep listening, the kind that leaves the other person feeling profoundly heard, truly understood, and genuinely valued, is incredibly rare. And precisely because it's so rare, it becomes incredibly powerful. If you can master this, you'll transform not just your conversations, but the very fabric of your relationships. People often mistakenly believe great conversationalists are great talkers, but the most magnetic, influential, and memorable individuals, they're almost always great listeners. Think about that friend you have, the one who always makes you feel lighter, clearer, just better after you've spoken with them. It's often because they listened with unwavering presence, without judgment, without rushing you. Deep listening builds trust faster than almost anything else. It communicates non-verbally. I value you. I see you. What you say matters to me. And trust, as we keep saying, is the absolute bedrock of every strong connection.
That's a really profound distinction. And it sounds like there are different levels to this listening thing. Can you walk us through them so we can maybe identify where we typically operate?
Absolutely. It's helpful to think about 3 distinct levels of listening. Level 1 is internal listening. Here, your focus is primarily on yourself. You hear the words, sure, but you're mainly filtering them through your own thoughts, your own experiences, your own judgments. If someone describes a stressful day, your mind immediately jumps to comparing it to your stressful day or thinking about advice you would give. Your attention is largely inward. Level 2 is focused listening. Now your attention shifts outward, fully engaging with the speaker. You're present, making eye contact, nodding along, following their words and the explicit content of what they're saying. You're actively absorbing the information. This is where most good listening happens. But level 3 is global listening. This is the highest level, the deepest level. Here you're intensely focused on their words, yes, and you're also acutely aware of their tone of voice, their pace, the underlying emotions, their body language, the things they aren't saying, the overall energy. Great listeners consistently aim for level 3. They engage with their ears, their eyes, their heart, even their intuition for a truly holistic and empathetic experience.
Level 3 sounds intense, but incredibly insightful. And often, in our rush to respond or fill the space, we overlook maybe one of the most powerful tools available: silence. What's the golden silence you mentioned, and why is it so valuable?
Ah, the golden silence
Mm.
is one of the most underrated yet potent tools in deep listening. Most of us feel uncomfortable with pauses in conversation, right? We feel this urge to rush in and fill the gap. But silence, when wielded intentionally, creates invaluable space. Space for depth, space for reflection. When someone finishes speaking, if you consciously choose to remain quiet for just a few seconds, just hold that space. It often prompts them to reveal what's really on their mind. Maybe a deeper thought, a more vulnerable feeling, a crucial detail they initially hesitated to share. I really encourage you, our listener, to try this experiment. The next time someone shares something important, consciously wait a beat or two longer than you normally would before jumping in. Just observe. You might be genuinely surprised by how much more people open up.
That's a simple, but yeah, probably quite challenging practice for many of us. Okay, so what are some of the common barriers that actually prevent us from truly listening deeply? Because I think we all have them.
Absolutely. We all do. And to master deep listening, it's essential to first recognize what consistently gets in our way. Some of those common barriers include distraction, obviously. Glancing at your phone, watching the clock, your mind wandering off somewhere else entirely. Judgment. Mentally agreeing or disagreeing, formulating your counterargument before they've even finished their sentence. Problem-solving mode. This is a big one. Jumping straight into offering solutions or advice instead first just validating their feelings and experience. And hijacking the story. Turning the spotlight immediately back onto yourself with phrases like, "Oh yeah, that happened to me too," or "You think dad's bad, listen to this." These habits don't just interrupt the flow. They subtly but powerfully erode trust over time. They signal that your experience is more important than theirs.
Right, recognizing those is the first step. So once we're aware of our own bad habits, what are the concrete techniques we can actually use to listen more deeply, more effectively?
Okay, so once you're aware of those barriers, you can start deploying specific techniques. First, and maybe most fundamentally, be fully present. Eliminate distractions, phone down, maybe even out of sight. Face the person. Make appropriate eye contact. Use your own body language, like nodding or leaning in slightly to show you're engaged. Second, reflect and paraphrase. Occasionally repeat back the essence of what they said, but in your own words. Something like, "So, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed at work right now, is that right?" This confirms understanding, shows you're tracking, and invites them to correct you if you misunderstood. Third, ask open-ended questions. Encourage them to elaborate and go deeper. Questions starting with, "How? What? Tell me more about, like, how did that make you feel?" instead of closed questions like, "Did that upset you?" which just invite a yes-no answer. Open-ended questions invite nuance and exploration. Fourth, validate their emotions. Acknowledge their feelings without necessarily agreeing with their perspective or the facts. Simple phrases like, "Wow, I can see why that would be really frustrating," or "That sounds incredibly difficult." This creates emotional safety and shows you accept their feelings as valid.
These techniques really do sound like a true gift we can offer other people. That feeling of being truly heard.
Indeed, deep listening gives people one of the rarest, most invaluable gifts in our modern world. The profound gift of being truly deeply understood. In our noisy, distracted, often superficial world, this gift is absolutely priceless. Imagine how many conflicts, how many misunderstandings, both big and small, could be healed or avoided altogether if people simply listened with more genuine presence and empathy. But deep listening doesn't just benefit the other person, it profoundly elevates you as well. You consistently learn more, you see more nuances, you grow more as a person when you listen deeply than when you spend all your time talking.
That's a great point about personal growth, too. Okay, for our listeners, what's one practical exercise they can try today, maybe in their next conversation, to put deep listening into action?
Okay, here's a practical exercise for your very next significant conversation. Choose just one conversation today where you consciously decide to practice deep listening. During that specific conversation, first, make a real effort to eliminate all distractions. Phone down, notifications off. Second, maintain gentle, natural eye contact that feels comfortable for both of you. Third, Focus intently not just on their words, but also listen for their tone. Watch their body language. Try to catch the whole message. Fourth, make a conscious effort during the conversation to paraphrase something they've said at least once. Validate one of their emotions explicitly and intentionally allow for at least one period of that golden silence before you jump in with your response. Afterwards, take a moment to observe how the other person responded. Did they seem more open, more comfortable? Did you feel more connected? Likely the answer will be yes. Remember, listening deeply isn't just about hearing every single word. It's about hearing the person behind the words. When you listen with empathy, you become someone people genuinely trust, someone they turn to. You enrich every room you enter. Your silence, your presence, your genuine attention can often speak far louder and more meaningfully than any words you could possibly utter. Hashtag tag navigating conflict with grace.
Okay, so we've explored the power of deep listening and building those strong connections. But what happens when those connections hit a snag? When disagreement or tension inevitably arises. Conflict feels unavoidable sometimes, but you suggest in the source material that it can actually be an opportunity. That feels counterintuitive. How do we shift our perspective to start managing conflict with grace?
You've hit on a really critical point there, because our instinctive reaction to conflict for most of us is often to either fight back, get defensive, or maybe shut down completely. Avoidance. But here's that radical reframe you mentioned. What if conflict wasn't something to dread? Wasn't just a problem to be solved or won? What if it was actually a powerful opportunity? An opportunity for deeper understanding, for potentially stronger relationships, and for profound personal growth. Conflict is inevitable in any meaningful relationship or team, but how we handle it is what determines if it's destructive, tearing things apart, or transformative, actually building something stronger. Conflict management is a vital aspect of social intelligence. So instead of seeing it as a battleground, try viewing it as an intensive bridge building exercise. Every single disagreement then becomes a chance to understand another perspective more deeply, to sharpen your communication skills under pressure, and to practice emotional balance when things get heated.
That's a really challenging, but yeah, potentially powerful reframe. Okay, so if we adopt that bridge building mindset, what are the first principles? What are the absolute must do's for managing conflict effectively?
The very first principle, and it connects directly back to our last topic, is to listen deeply, listening well beyond the surface of the words themselves. When we're faced with an argument, most of us immediately hear the statements as attacks, right? And we start preparing our defense, our rebuttal. But when you commit to truly listening with a genuine intention to seek out what might be hidden beneath the frustration, beneath the anger, you'll often uncover unmet needs, unspoken fears, or fundamental misunderstandings driving the conflict. For example, someone exploding with, "You never listen to my ideas," might not just be about that one specific conversation. It might actually stem from a deeper feeling of being consistently undervalued or dismissed. Listening for that changes everything.
Right, that shifts the whole dynamic. It's not just about the accusation, it's about the underlying need or feeling. Okay, what's the second principle?
The second principle is critically important, especially when emotions run high. You have to learn to control your own emotional triggers. In conflict situations, emotions can escalate incredibly quickly. It's like throwing fuel on a fire. Socially intelligent individuals recognize this danger. They develop the ability to pause, take a breath, and consciously choose to respond thoughtfully, rather than just reacting impulsively based on their own triggered feelings. Something as simple as saying, "Okay, I hear you, and I can see this is really important to you. Let's just take a moment here to gather our thoughts before we continue," can be incredibly powerful. It can prevent the conversation from spiraling out of control. That pause allows everyone involved to recalibrate.
Mm-hmm. That pause is key. And once we've managed to listen deeply and keep our own emotions in check, what's the third key principle for navigating the conflict itself?
The third crucial principle is to actively practice finding common ground. Conflict, by its nature, highlights the differences between people. But beneath almost every disagreement, if you look hard enough, there's often a shared underlying goal or value. Maybe it's mutual respect. Maybe it's finding an efficient solution. Maybe it's just maintaining harmony in the relationship. By intentionally shifting your focus from what separates you to what might actually unite you, potential solutions start to appear much more naturally. Consider, say, two coworkers arguing intensely over a project approach. One prioritizes speed above all else, the other insists on meticulous quality. A socially intelligent mediator or even one of the participants might reframe it. They could say, okay, it seems we both want this project to succeed. How can we find a way to achieve the speed we need while also upholding the quality standards we both value? What looked like an intractable conflict suddenly transforms into a collaborative problem-solving exercise.
That's a fantastic example of reframing for collaboration. Are there any other specific tools or techniques that can help us disarm defensiveness, both in ourselves and others, during these tough moments?
Absolutely. One extremely powerful tool is using the language of empathy, employing phrases like, wow, I can understand how that must have felt for you, or, okay, I think I see your point here, even if I don't fully agree with the conclusion, can work wonders. It disarms defensiveness and invites openness. Crucially, this doesn't mean you're surrendering your own perspective or agreeing with them. It simply demonstrates profound respect for their experience and their right to feel the way they do. Social intelligence also involves the wisdom sometimes of knowing precisely when to step away. Not every battle needs to be fought or resolved in the heat of the moment. Sometimes postponing the conversation until emotions have cooled down is the most intelligent move. But it's crucial here to distinguish tactical postponement from chronic avoidance. Avoidance just ignores the problem, hoping it goes away. Postponement strategically creates space for a more thoughtful and productive resolution later on.
Right, strategic pause versus just running away. And when conflict is managed well, using these principles, you're saying it can actually end up strengthening trust. That still feels a bit counterintuitive to me.
It might seem counterintuitive at first glance, yeah. But when practiced correctly, skilled conflict resolution can absolutely, profoundly strengthen trust. Think about it. If someone consistently experiences that disagreements with you, even heated ones, ultimately lead to greater understanding and mutual respect, rather than hostility or punishment, they'll feel much safer expressing their honest thoughts and concerns with you in the future. That feeling of psychological safety, the core belief that you can speak up, disagree, even make a mistake without fear of retribution or humiliation, is the absolute foundation of healthy, resilient relationships, both personal and professional. The socially intelligent person doesn't go into a conflict aiming to win the argument at all costs. Instead, their primary aim is to preserve dignity, theirs and the other person's, genuinely respect different perspectives, and collaboratively foster solutions that actually strengthen the underlying relationship in the long run. This approach transforms conflict from a force of division into a potentially powerful catalyst for deeper connection and mutual understanding.
That really changes the goalposts for conflict, doesn't it? Okay, so to wrap up this important section, what's a final thought or piece of advice on approaching conflict with social intelligence?
Here's a thought to carry forward. Conflict is truly like a mirror. It reflects back to you your own emotional patterns, your communication habits, and the underlying dynamics of your relationships. So this week, instead of automatically avoiding tension or jumping to defend your position when disagreement arises, try leaning into genuine curiosity instead. Ask one extra clarifying question. Listen one layer deeper for the unspoken needs or feelings beneath the surface. Actively, intentionally seek out that potential common ground. Every single conflict you navigate wisely and constructively doesn't just solve the immediate problem. It significantly increases your power and skill in social intelligence. It's like building muscle. Hashtag tag the power of storytelling in social intelligence.
Okay, we've covered so much ground already. First impressions, body language, emotional awareness, deep listening, even conflict. These are all crucial for understanding people. But what about really connecting with others, influencing them in a positive way? You mentioned in the source that storytelling is one of the most powerful tools in the social intelligence toolbox. Why is that? Why are we humans so innately drawn to stories?
It's an almost primal connection, isn't it? Imagine sitting around a campfire thousands of years ago, or even just leaning closer in a meeting today, captivated as someone speaks. That's the ancient, enduring art of storytelling. And when it's mastered, it truly is one of the most potent tools for social intelligence. Humans are fundamentally wired for stories. Long before we had written language, stories were how we shared vital knowledge, cultural values, survival tips. Even today, the way we tell stories shapes how others perceive us, how they connect with us, and how they remember us, often far more powerfully than just presenting dry facts or data. Storytelling in the context of social intelligence allows you to effectively read and respond to people through narrative. When you share a relevant story, you're conveying not just information, but emotion, context, a piece of yourself. This can dissolve walls, inspire trust, and spark collaboration in a way that pure logic or argument often simply cannot.
Dissolving walls and inspiring trust. That's a powerful idea. Can you give us a concrete example? How are stories more impactful in fostering human connection than just, say, presenting the facts?
Okay, consider this common scenario. You want to persuade your team to get behind a new initiative. Option 1. You could present a slide deck full of statistics, charts, logical arguments. Option 2. You could tell a concise, engaging story about a specific customer who is struggling with a particular challenge and how your proposed solution genuinely transformed their experience, maybe even their life, in a small way. Which approach do you think will resonate more deeply? The story, almost every time. Why? Because the story activates empathy. It allows the listener's brains to simulate the character's experience. It engages their imagination. It builds a bridge of shared emotion. Stories connect on a human level that facts alone often struggle to reach. They create empathy, like we said. They make messages truly memorable. Facts fade. Stories stick. They build credibility by revealing your values, your humanity beyond just the data. And they invite collaboration. People feel part of something bigger, a shared narrative, when connected through story.
So, a story doesn't have to be some grand, epic saga. It just needs a few key ingredients to be effective, even if it's short. What are those core components?
That's exactly right. Even a brief anecdote, maybe just a sentence or two, can be incredibly powerful if it contains three key ingredients. First, you need a relatable character that your listener can connect with. Maybe it's you, maybe it's a client, maybe even a well-chosen fictional example. Second, there needs to be a challenge, some kind of tension, an obstacle to overcome, a problem to be solved. This creates engagement. Third, there must be a transformation. How did things change as a result? What was learned? What was gained? What was the outcome? So instead of just stating blandly, our new program increases productivity, you could try something like, last year, Sarah told me she felt like she was drowning in tasks every single day. After using this new system for just a month, she said she finished her core work in half the time and, for the first time in years, actually had evenings free to spend with her family. Which statement lands with more impact? Which one feels more real? The story? Every time.
Yeah, that's a great illustration. It makes the benefit so much more vivid and human. And it sounds like storytelling isn't just about us talking, it's also about how we listen to the stories others tell us, right?
Precisely. Storytelling is absolutely a two-way street. It's deeply connected to active, empathetic listening. When you pay close attention not just to the facts, but to the stories others share, their triumphs, their struggles, their hopes, their aspirations, you gain invaluable insight into their deeper fears, their dreams, their core motivations. And here's where social intelligence really shines. Responding to someone's story not just with advice, but with your own relevant, resonant story creates incredibly powerful rapport. For instance, if a colleague shares that they're feeling overwhelmed by deadlines, Instead of just saying, yeah, that's tough, maybe respond with empathy and a brief personal story about a time you navigated similar stress, offering encouragement through shared experience rather than just solutions. Suddenly, you're not just colleagues, you're fellow travelers on a similar path. That creates a bond that transcends simple roles.
So, storytelling becomes this subtle but really effective influence strategy. How can people in positions like leaders, teachers, or even parents use this more effectively to guide and inspire?
Indeed, storytelling is an extraordinarily potent yet often underutilized influence strategy. Think about the great leaders throughout history, the most inspiring teachers, the most effective parents. They consistently use narrative to guide, motivate, and inspire. Historical speeches weren't just lists of policies. They were compelling narratives of shared vision, collective struggle, and potential triumph. To influence positively using stories. First, make sure you share stories that align deeply with their values, not just your own, what matters to them. Second, use vivid metaphors and imagery within your stories to simplify complex ideas and make them stick. And crucially, don't be afraid to show appropriate vulnerability in your stories. People connect far more authentically with relatable imperfection than they do with flawless, distant perfection. Sharing your own struggles or learning moments creates a profound human bond.
That's incredibly helpful advice. And the good news is, we don't need a grand stage or a formal presentation to do this. It can be woven into our daily lives quite easily. How can we practice storytelling every day?
Absolutely. You don't need a grand stage at all. You can integrate storytelling easily into your daily routines. Maybe at the dinner table, instead of the usual work was fine, share one small, meaningful story from your day. A challenge overcome, a funny observation, a small win, something you learned. In casual conversations, try replacing abstract statements or opinions with concrete, personal examples or brief anecdotes. When networking, instead of just reciting your resume points, share a concise story that reveals who you are, your passion, or a key moment that shaped your path. You'll start to notice a difference. People will lean in more. Their eyes might light up. They'll remember what you said. And often, they'll feel more comfortable and be more inclined to share their own stories in return. It creates this beautiful reciprocal flow of connection.
So fundamentally, it's really about fostering connection, not about trying to manipulate people.
Precisely. The ultimate purpose of socially intelligent storytelling is not manipulation. It's about forging genuine human connection. When you share an authentic story, you're essentially extending an invitation. Here's a piece of my experience, a piece of me. Do you see yourself in it? Does this resonate? That moment of shared recognition, of finding common humanity within the narrative, that is precisely where social intelligence blossoms most vibrantly. So don't just collect facts and data. Collect stories, your own and those of others. Share them with honesty, vulnerability, and empathy. And listen just as intently when others share theirs, because in those stories, you'll discover the vibrant, beating heart of true human connection.
That's a really powerful challenge for us all. Okay, for our listeners, what's one immediate story challenge they can take on, maybe even today?
Okay, here's a concluding challenge for you right now. Make a point to share one small but genuinely meaningful story sometime today. Doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's a lesson you learned this morning, a funny moment during your commute, or a small challenge you managed to overcome at work. As you share it, pay close attention to how the person or people you're talking to respond. Notice if their eyes light up, if they lean in a little closer, or if they're prompted to share something similar in return. That subtle shift in energy, that spark of connection, that is precisely social intelligence in action, the undeniable connecting power of storytelling unfolding right before you. Hashtag, tag, building trust and credibility through social intelligence.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today, from those invisible signals and first impressions to body language, emotions, listening, conflict, and now stories. It feels like all of these skills, when they're applied consistently, really lead to one incredibly important outcome: building trust and credibility. You mentioned the source calls trust the quiet superpower. Can you unpack that? Why is trust so powerful, yet maybe sometimes overlooked?
Trust truly is the quiet superpower. And the source puts it perfectly, something like, trust is the quiet superpower. It compounds slowly, invisibly, until one day it moves mountains for you. This isn't about making grand entrances or dazzling everyone with flash and charisma. Trust operates much more subtly, often beneath the surface. But its cumulative impact over time is absolutely immense. Think about it. When people genuinely trust you, doors just seem to open more easily. People return your calls faster. They share sensitive information more readily. They're willing to take calculated risks based purely on your word, on your character. Charisma might get you in the room initially, sure, but it's unwavering trust that ensures you stay there, remain influential, and build lasting relationships. And credibility, that's the tangible proof that your trustworthiness isn't just luck. It's a consistent, deliberate achievement built over time.
So it sounds like in the long run, trust often beats raw talent or brilliance. Why is that endurance, that staying power of trust so critical?
Talent definitely impresses, especially in the short term. But it's trust that truly endures. When the stakes are high, when things get difficult, people will almost always choose safety and reliability over mere flash or brilliance. And this safety manifests in different ways, right? It's the emotional safety you feel in a close friendship. It's the psychological safety required for high-performing teams. It's the moral authority that underpins effective leadership. When others genuinely believe that you are competent, that you are reliable, and that you genuinely care about their interests, that warmth factor, you gain the freedom to influence and lead effectively, often without needing formal authority. Social intelligence is what transforms this often vague ideal of being trustworthy into a set of concrete, actionable practices. It teaches you how to intentionally deliver those subtle but powerful signals of reliability, congruence, and goodwill.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so if trust is this quiet superpower, what are the fundamental building blocks? You mentioned four pillars that build this credibility. What are they?
Yeah, think of credibility like a sturdy table supported by four essential legs. If you lose one leg, the table wobbles precariously. If you lose two, it collapses entirely. The first leg is competence. Basically, can you actually do the job? Do you have the skills? This is about your knowledge, your skills, your judgment. You signal it by being prepared, by simplifying complex ideas, but also by being transparent and humble about your limits, saying something like, here's what I know for sure, here's what I'm still validating. The second leg is reliability. Will you actually do what you say you'll do? This is all about consistent follow-through. It's built on keeping countless micro-commitments over time, delivering when you said you would, maybe even a bit early, or crucially, giving an early heads up if unforeseen things cause a slip. The third leg is integrity. Should you be doing this? Are your actions aligned with sound values? This is about moral alignment, the congruence between your stated values, your words, and your actual behavior, especially when nobody's watching or when doing the right thing is costly. And the fourth leg is warmth or benevolence. Do you actually care about me, about my interest, or is it all just about you? This involves prioritizing others' well-being alongside your own. It's conveyed through empathy, transparency in your motives, and making fair choices. Remember, credibility isn't an innate trait you either have or don't. It's a consistent pattern of behavior over time, which means anyone can actively cultivate it.
That's a really clear and useful framework, the four legs of the table. And you mentioned there's a practical formula, the congruence test, for becoming predictably trustworthy. What is that test?
The congruence test is a wonderfully simple yet profoundly effective formula for becoming predictably trustworthy. It basically has three parts. First, say clearly what you will do, make a clear promise or commitment. Second, let others see your progress, provide visible checkpoints, updates, or evidence of movement. Don't make them guess. Third, keep it the same. Same over time, demonstrate consistency in your actions and follow-through, even when you're under pressure. Congruence, this alignment between words and deeds, works wonders because it quiets anxiety in others. When your words, your tone, your timing, and your actions all line up seamlessly, people's uncertainty transforms into assurance, and that assurance builds deep trust.
See, same. I like that. It's memorable. Okay, what are some small, really actionable trust signals that we can start controlling, like today, to begin building that reputation for reliability?
There are many small, cumulative trust signals that significantly build your reputation. You can start today by practicing time discipline. Be punctual. Arrive early for meetings. End them on time. Send follow-up summaries quickly. It signals respect for others' time. Cultivate name plus memory. Make an effort to remember people's names and small, relevant details about them or previous conversations. Reflecting these accurately shows you are paying attention. Ensure clarity up front. Before starting a task or project, clearly define the goal, the scope, any boundaries or limits. Ambiguity breeds distrust. Provide early bad news alerts. Don't wait until the last minute. Proactively flag potential risks or delays, ideally with a proposed mitigation plan. Saying something like, just flagging this potential issue now so we can adjust course if needed. Embody confidentiality by default. Avoid gossip like the plague. Treat information shared with you as confidential unless explicitly told otherwise. Create receipts for promises. After agreeing on something verbally, send a brief written recap confirming the agreement and next steps. This prevents he said, she said. Each one of these small acts, practiced consistently, day in and day out, forms the robust foundation of your reputation and significantly boosts your trustworthiness.
Those are fantastic, really concrete tips. Anyone can start doing those. And you've even provided some scripts for instant credibility in the source. Can you share a few examples of those word patterns? They sound incredibly useful.
Yes, these are essentially prepackaged word patterns designed to instantly transmit warmth, competence, and reliability. For example, when setting scope and limits. Okay, here's what I can realistically commit to delivering by the end of this week. For items X and Y, I'll need to check a couple things and we'll confirm back to you by Friday at 4 p.m. Clear boundaries, clear timeline. For expressing uncertainty without sounding fragile. I don't have that exact number right now. Let me verify that with the source data and I'll report back to you by noon today. Owns the lack of info, promises resolution. For making an early risk call out. Okay, looking at this, if we keep the current deadline, the quality on this part will likely drop. If we prioritize maintaining the quality standard, the timeline will probably need to move by about 48 hours. Which trade-off makes more sense right now? Present options, shares control. And for a repair opener, when you've genuinely messed up, look, I missed the mark on that. I'm not going to make excuses. Here's the impact I see this having, and here's my concrete plan to make it right, starting now. Notice the consistent pattern in all of these. It's clear ownership, a specific timeline or next step, and a focus on solutions, not blame. This predictability builds instant credibility.
That pattern of clarity, ownership, and forward motion is definitely key. And you use this great analogy of a credibility bank. What does that mean? And how do we make high interest repayments when we inevitably make a large withdrawal?
The credibility bank is a really useful way to think about trust. Essentially, every relationship has an invisible trust account. Every kept promise, every act of reliability is a deposit. Every missed commitment, every broken promise, every integrity lapse is a withdrawal. Now, small withdrawals can often be covered by past deposits, but large withdrawals, significant errors, betrayals of trust, require more than just fixing the immediate problem. They require hefty interest payments to rebuild the balance. These high-interest repayments typically include several components. First, acknowledgement without excuses, specifically naming the negative impact your actions had on the other person. Second, making specific amends, going beyond just fixing the mistake to actively replacing any cost or inconvenience you created. Third, implementing a visible process change or safeguard to demonstrate you're serious about preventing a recurrence. And finally, allowing time. Rebuilding significant trust requires consistent positive behavior over a sustained period. The key insight here is that people generally forgive errors much faster than they forgive evasiveness, defensiveness, or a lack of genuine accountability.
That's incredibly powerful, acknowledging the impact on them and making a visible change to prevent it happening again. This whole concept of trust also applies to groups, right? Not just one-on-one. You mentioned psychological safety earlier.
Precisely. Psychological safety is essentially trust operating at the group or team scale. It's the shared belief within a team or family that it's safe to take interpersonal risks, to speak up of ideas, questions, concerns, or even mistakes, without fear of being punished, shamed, or humiliated. It's the oxygen of candor and effective collaboration. How do you create it? Well, leaders and members alike can. First, actively invite dissenting opinions. What am I missing here? What's a potential downside I'm not seeing? Second, reward early warnings and bad news. Praise the messenger, don't shoot them. Third, normalize iteration and learning from mistakes. This first draft is just for learning. Failure is data. Fourth, explicitly decouple respect from agreement. I might disagree with your idea, but I still respect you and I'm fully committed to the team's success. When people feel this deep sense of safety, they share critical information sooner, they innovate more freely, and they protect both project outcomes and vital working relationships.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about what to do to build trust. What about the pitfalls? What are the big credibility killers we should actively avoid, like the plague?
Right, knowing what not to do is just as important. Based on the source, here are the 5 big credibility killers that quickly erode trust. First, overpromising, which often masquerades as optimism or enthusiasm. The antidote: learn to accurately right-size your promises based on reality. Second, chronic lateness, often disguised with excuses about being so busy. The antidote: practice impeccable time integrity as a sign of respect. Third, gossip, sometimes reframed innocently as just sharing context or keeping you in the loop. The antidote: maintain strict confidentiality by default. Don't participate. Fourth, inconsistent warmth, being friendly and engaging only when you need something from someone. The antidote: cultivate steady, genuine kindness and respect for everyone, regardless of their immediate utility to you. And fifth, defensiveness, immediately blocking feedback or shutting down constructive criticism. The antidote: replace defensiveness with profound curiosity. Ask, what can I learn here? Being constantly vigilant against these 5 killers is paramount for maintaining credibility.
That's a great checklist of things to watch out for in ourselves. Now, shifting gears slightly in our modern world, so much of our interaction happens online, digitally. Building trust in that environment must be different, right? How do we build trust effectively when all those nonverbal cues are stripped away?
You've highlighted a significant challenge of our times. Digital communication inherently strips away many of the rich nonverbal cues, tone of voice, body language, microexpressions that we rely on to gauge trust and intention in person. The solution isn't to give up, but rather to consciously over-communicate clarity and tone in our digital interactions. We have to be much more deliberate. Some practical tips: use short paragraphs and explicit bullet points, especially for decisions, requests, or next steps. Make it easy to scan and understand. Add tone signposts in your writing, phrases like just a quick heads up on this, or wanted to celebrate this great win, or even carefully chosen emojis can help convey warmth and intent. Always confirm receipt and understanding explicitly. Got it. Thanks. Understood. Will action by Tuesday. For anything potentially sensitive or prone to misunderstanding, especially conflict, switch to voice or video communication as quickly as possible. Text-based communication dramatically amplifies misunderstandings. And finally, document key agreements visibly in a shared, easily accessible place to avoid version chaos and differing recollections. Remember, your digital footprint, your emails, your messages, your online conduct is increasingly your portable reputation. Curate it with care and intention.
That's such crucial advice for navigating work and life today. And you mentioned in the source material this idea of a ladder of trust, progressing from just being friendly to being truly trusted. What does that progression look like?
Right? The journey from simply being perceived as friendly to being deeply trusted isn't usually a single leap. It's more like climbing a progressive ladder, rung by rung. The first rung might be pleasant. You're generally likable, easy to talk to, approachable. The second rung is helpful. You consistently add small, reliable value to others' lives or work. You're seen as someone who pitches in. The third rung is dependable. People start to factor your word into their own plans. They count on you to follow through. Your reliability is assumed. The fourth rung is advisor. People actively seek out your judgment and perspective on important consequential choices. They value your insight. And the highest rung is confidant. People trust you with their most sensitive truths, their vulnerabilities, their deepest concerns. This is the pinnacle of earned trust. Climbing this ladder requires patience and consistency. Trying to skip rungs, maybe by forcing intimacy or demanding trust you haven't yet earned, inevitably leads to a fall back down.
That ladder provides a great roadmap for development. And to help people actively practice building trust, you've developed this 7-day trust sprint. Can you walk us through what that involves? It sounds really actionable.
The 7-day trust sprint is designed to be a highly actionable, focused practice plan to jumpstart credibility building. Here's how it works. Day 1, promises audit. Make a list of all your open promises or commitments. Use two and either complete them or proactively renegotiate the deadline today. Day 2, radical clarity. Pick one task or request you need to make. Write a super clear 3-line brief outlining the goal, any key boundaries or constraints, and the specific deadline. Day 3, early warning. Identify one potential risk or problem brewing in your work or life. Proactively flag it to the relevant person today, ideally with a suggested mitigation. Day 4, reliability reps. Find 2 small commitments you've made. Deliver on them early today, ahead of the deadline. Day 5, confidentiality champion. Find an opportunity to gracefully decline participation in gossip or speculation today. Maybe change the subject or offer a neutral response. Day 6, repair, move one. Think of one small lapse or mistake you made recently. Reach out, apologize sincerely for it, and fix it today. Day 7, reflection and feedback. Ask 2 people you trust. What's one specific way I could be even more reliable or trustworthy for you? Listen deeply to their feedback without defending. Thank them. And commit to implementing one concrete change based on what you heard. The idea is to repeat this kind of focused sprint, perhaps monthly. Credibility, like fitness, thrives on consistent, deliberate practice.
That's a fantastic, structured way to build this trust muscle. Okay, one final question on this topic. When does trust really count the most? When does it truly distinguish us?
Trust is truly tested, and therefore truly counts the most, in the hard moments. When things are going wrong, when pressure is high, when uncertainty reigns. Anyone can appear credible and trustworthy on a calm, sunny day. What truly distinguishes you, what forges deep, lasting trust, is your storm behavior, how you act when the metaphorical chips are down. In these challenging moments, strive to. First, hold your shape, maintain a calm voice, a slower pace, use shorter, clear sentences, don't add to the chaos. Second, prioritize people first, then the problems. Check in on well-being. Are you okay? Before diving into solutions. Okay, here's how we'll stabilize this situation. Third, share the frame, clearly articulate the constraints you're working under and the available levers or choices. Okay, the main constraint is X, our possible levers are A, B, or C. And finally, sometimes it requires making a visible sacrifice, willingly taking on an unfair share of the burden or inconvenience for the good of the whole. Under pressure, trust either fractures completely or gets forged into something even stronger. Remember, credibility isn't built in grand speeches or dramatic gestures. It's forged in the crucible of daily, quiet, often boringly repetitive acts of follow-through, integrity, and care. Strive to be the person whose presence actually relaxes shoulders or steadies a room in times of crisis. Your reputation for trustworthiness will precede you and open doors you never thought possible. #, building a legacy through social intelligence.
Wow, we've journeyed through so much today, understanding those invisible signals, mastering first impressions, decoding body language, tuning into emotions, the art of deep listening, navigating conflict with grace, and finally building that quiet superpower of trust and credibility. It feels like all of these practices, when they coalesce, lead to something even larger, something more lasting. How do they contribute to the impact we have, maybe even the legacy we leave behind?
That's the ultimate aspiration, isn't it? Moving beyond just effective interactions to creating a lasting positive impact. Every single conversation you have, every relationship you nurture, every small act of connection or disconnection leaves something behind. It leaves ripples. This is the profound long-term power of social intelligence. It doesn't just change how you navigate the present moment. It creates these subtle, accumulating ripples that profoundly influence your future. And yes, the legacy you ultimately leave behind. Think of that pebble dropped in a still lake. The circles spread far wider than the initial splash. Your words, your empathy, your awareness, your reliability, they act in exactly the same way. And there's that undeniable truth, often attributed to Maya Angelou. People may forget the details of what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That consistent feeling you evoke in others, that becomes the very essence of your social legacy.
So it's really about being intentional with those countless daily interactions, recognizing their cumulative power over time.
Precisely. To build a legacy through social intelligence means being deeply intentional about those daily moments. Everyday exchanges, however seemingly ordinary or fleeting, collectively weave the rich, complex story of how people experience you. When people leave an interaction with you, how do they generally feel? Uplifted, seen, heard, respected, or maybe diminished, ignored, judged. Think of figures like Nelson Mandela, often remembered for his incredible ability to listen with genuine interest, making even adversaries feel heard. Or Oprah Winfrey, celebrated for her unique talent in making people feel valued and understood. Their legacies are deeply intertwined with their exceptional social intelligence. You have the same opportunity right within your own sphere of influence. A kind word offered to a stressed colleague, a genuine smile shared with a stranger on the street, taking the time to teach children how to listen with empathy and care. These seemingly small acts shape perceptions, build connections, and can even influence generations. Social intelligence transforms you from just a participant in life into a potential profound creator of positive impact.
A creator of impact. I really like that framing. And this isn't just a theory, right? It requires consistent, dedicated practice. What's the key question we should be asking ourselves regularly to guide this practice for legacy building?
The key to building this kind of legacy isn't luck or chance. It's absolutely rooted in consistent, deliberate practice over the long haul. A pivotal question to ask yourself regularly, maybe even daily, is simply, what do I genuinely want to be remembered for in my relationships? Do you want to be remembered for your compassion, your wisdom, your unwavering reliability, your encouragement? Let the answer to that question actively guide your daily actions and choices. If you aspire to be remembered for empathy, then consistently practice listening without interrupting, validating feelings, seeking to understand before seeking to be understood. If you wish to be remembered for encouragement, make it a daily habit to notice and highlight strengths in others, to celebrate their efforts, not just outcomes. It's these small choices, these consistent actions repeated day after day, month after month, year after year, that compound into an enduring legacy. Many people stumble because they drastically underestimate the power of consistency. One grand, kind gesture is nice, sure, but it's the steady, repeated patterns, consistent empathy, unwavering respect, authentic presence that truly cultivate a thriving garden of goodwill, the kind of legacy that others will always remember and value.
So it's definitely not about achieving some kind of impossible perfection, but maybe more about how we handle the inevitable imperfections. Our legacy also involves resilience and our ability to repair relationships when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Building a meaningful legacy isn't about achieving some mythical state of perfection. That's unrealistic and, frankly, unhuman. Conflicts will happen, mistakes will be made, you will misread situations or unintentionally hurt someone. What truly matters, what profoundly shapes your legacy in the eyes of others, is how you handle these challenging moments. Specifically, how you engage in repair. Admitting when you're wrong, offering sincere, heartfelt apologies without caveats, and taking genuine responsibility for your part demonstrates tremendous social intelligence and character. Paradoxically, these acts of humility and accountability, while difficult, can often strengthen relationships even more than if the mistake had never happened. People remember not just your initial flaw, but your courage, your integrity, and your commitment to making things right. That repair process itself becomes part of your positive legacy.
And this influence of social intelligence, this legacy building, it extends beyond just our direct one-on-one relationships, doesn't it? It can shape entire cultures, communities, families.
That's a crucial ripple effect to understand. The influence of social intelligence extends far beyond your immediate circle. It can profoundly impact entire cultures and systems. In the workplace, for example, emotionally intelligent leaders don't just manage tasks. They cultivate flourishing environments where creativity, trust, collaboration, and loyalty can truly thrive. Their legacy is a healthy organizational culture. In communities, socially aware individuals often become the vital connectors, bridging divides, fostering cohesion, and building social capital. Within families, those who consistently model empathy, respect, and constructive conflict resolution pass down invaluable interpersonal skills and values, shaping how future generations perceive the world and treat others. They create a legacy of healthy relating that extends far beyond their own lifespan.
So how do we keep this focus? How do we keep this growth mindset going day after day? What kind of daily reflection questions can help us stay on track with building this positive legacy?
To continuously fuel this growth and maintain intentionality, making daily reflection a brief but regular habit can be incredibly helpful. At the end of each day, perhaps before sleep, take just a few quiet moments to ask yourself questions like, who did I genuinely connect with today, even briefly? How did I likely leave them feeling after our interaction? Did my words and actions today consciously bring more light, more positive energy, or perhaps inadvertently add more weight or negativity into their world? The purpose here isn't self-flagellation or guilt. It's about fostering profound self-awareness and actively fueling your growth, driven by conscious intention rather than just drifting through interactions. This kind of mindful practice transforms ordinary, everyday interactions into extraordinary opportunities to consciously weave the threads of the meaningful legacy you wish to leave behind.
That's a really beautiful and powerful way to tie everything together. It's not just about the immediate benefits for ourselves, but really about the story, the feeling we leave behind for others.
Precisely. Remember, this whole art of reading and responding to people, this journey into social intelligence, is not just about gaining immediate advantages or achieving short-term goals. It is, perhaps most fundamentally, about consciously creating a life story, interaction by interaction, that people will genuinely want to retell, be inspired by, and feel grateful to have been a part of. And that story, that legacy, isn't solely defined by what you achieved in isolation, but profoundly, perhaps primarily, by how you touched the lives of others along the way. Hashtag outro.
So what does this all really mean then? We've just taken a really deep dive today into the incredible, sometimes invisible power of social intelligence. From those critical first impressions, right through to the silent language of our bodies, the profound art of deep listening, and building that unwavering trust. It's truly been a journey into the hidden architecture of human connection.
It really has. And I think it's clear that these aren't just, abstract concepts or nice ideas. We've hopefully laid out some actionable tools, a robust framework you can actually use to navigate our complex social world with, well, with greater grace, more intentionality, and ultimately more positive impact. And the most empowering insight, I think, is this. Every single one of you listening has the innate ability to cultivate and continually sharpen this vital skill.
Exactly. It really boils down to being fully present, doesn't it? Being acutely aware of both your own internal landscape and the signals others are sending, and then consciously choosing to respond with genuine intention and empathy. the journey to becoming truly socially intelligent. It's continuous, it's a lifelong pursuit, really. But make no mistake, the rewards along the way are profound, deeper, more meaningful relationships, greater positive influence in your life and work, and just a richer, more satisfying sense of connection in everything you do.
And remember, the ultimate goal here isn't necessarily to win every interaction or to simply impress everyone you meet. Instead, it's about consistently striving to foster mutual understanding, to build bridges of connection where there might be divides, and to strengthen the invaluable human bonds that tie us all together. The real challenge, and honestly, the ultimate reward, lies in consistently applying these insights day in, day out, across all your interactions, big and small.
Right. So, as you go about your week, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final provocative thought to maybe mull over. Ask yourself this: how will my presence today, right now, in this very moment, shape the story of connection I leave behind for others? It's not just about the immediate benefits for you, it's about consciously creating that lasting legacy, a narrative of empathy, trust, and profound understanding that people will genuinely want to retell and feel better for having been a part of for years to come.